Estep and Trustee McVeigh both asked that we place it on the agenda for discussion. It really calls on us to advocate to particularly our federal legislation. It certainly goes to the governor's office, but really is a conversation around what type of federal intervention may be necessary for us to come anywhere near a funding level that will be sufficient for us next year. So again, it's a resolution that the MASB wanted all school districts in Michigan to consider passing. So made the modifications to put Saline area schools in and have it on the agenda tonight for consideration.
Okay, and we don't typically do resolutions as a rule, just because we like to personalize it, but I felt this was a really important one for us to stand side by side with MASB across the state and really send that message clearly to Washington that we need some relief here in Michigan for our schools. We certainly can't manage this budget without that. So we need some help. Other comments?
I'll say, I agree with the framework of the resolution and the purpose, I guess, of, trying to advocate for the additional money. I was kind of shocked to see the resolution show up on the agenda because we don't normally do resolutions. And we're not a board that operates with resolutions, so I was kind of surprised to see that. So, I mean, I think we will. The only way we can backfill this is through some type of help from the federal government, and I think I will be advocating for that. I don't know if I'll approve. I approve of the resolution more on the fact of the idea that we aren't a board that operates through resolutions.
Dennis?
Yeah, I feel similar to what Trustee Austin was saying. We're not a board that operates by passing resolutions. The concern here is, where does it stop? We have other resolutions. I want to bring up something else. Yes, of course, we're going to advocate for the federal government to help us out here. But I want to stay within our particular domain of Saline area schools. So I don't want to get into the process of continuing resolutions that may not get us where we want.
Okay, thank you. Yep, Susan?
So I think we should revisit or maybe discuss at a later time this idea that the board doesn't operate by resolutions, because I feel like we've done some resolutions in the past on different topics. So I really want to revisit that conversation, because I don't know if that was the past board or if that was a decision, and I could look back on some minutes that was brought forth to the board. So yeah, as a policy person, I definitely want to look into that further. So I know this was sent out also, not just MASB. I know it was sent out by the Superintendents Association. There were several education organizations that actually put out an event last week that was around, really advocating for this, like for the funding and to reach out. We are policymakers. The school board is elected officials. That's who we are, policymakers. So I really think advocating on things, I feel like this is nonpartisan. So I really support it. I know education organizations, institutes are supporting it as well. So hopefully we can reconsider that, but definitely have the conversation about resolutions. Maybe it's something we adopt in the policies, whether we want it or not, and what that could include to make sure that, if the concern is the partisanship, put some parameters around that. Thank you.
Michael?
Yeah, well, two things. One is, yeah, I agree with Susan, and I certainly hear you, Tim and Dennis, that we need to have a conversation about perhaps putting something into our board procedures, operating procedures. If we don't do resolutions, or if we limit resolutions, then let's spell it out or specify it. We can't just say, oh, historically, we haven't done such and such. That's not going to hold water after a while. I do want to say, after listening to the last 3 budget reports from the MASB, when they the main argument really is flexibility. Right now, there's money that's in the state from the federal government, but we're still waiting to find out. We're trying to push them away from inaction. Right now, the money can only be spent on COVID-19 related expenditures, and they're just asking for some flexibility and asking for, and the venue they want to distribute it through is through E-rate. So among other things, we need money in the state, definitely $3.1 billion over 3 years to help shore up the inevitable hit that's coming to schools all over the state. And I haven't seen that many resolutions from the MASB, so I am inclined, since it's a rare thing, I'm inclined to support it, and that's where I stand on this. And I didn't see it as a partisan issue. I know nobody really mentioned partisan, but I just think it's an important issue at this time.
Okay, Paul, you raised your hand, I think.
Yeah, well, we did have a conversation about this, and I think we decided that we would take them on a case-by-case basis. So if we need to wrap operating procedure around that and figure out a way to make it, fair to everyone to have input before a resolution comes before the board, I'm not opposed to that. But this one, I think, is, like everyone said, fairly nonpartisan, and us, along with everybody else in the world, is begging the federal government for money, which is kind of ironic because in the past they have a little bit flouted, rules against the federal government, and now they want their money. So it's fine.
Okay, I think everybody, oh, Jennifer?
My recollection is the same as Paul's, that we determined we would handle it on a case-by-case basis, and I think everybody was pretty good with that. I disagree a little bit with the statement that we don't operate under resolutions. I don't think we operate with them or without them. I think we should maybe look at them as at a case-by-case basis, like we decided. I think a key point of being on a Board of Education is advocacy. Michael, I think you just got your certification in that, if I'm not mistaken. It's an important thing. It's an important attribute to have as a trustee. So I don't necessarily know if I would advocate for something to go in our board operating procedures about being a board that typically operates under resolutions or not. But I do like what we had discussed previously with case-by-case basis.
Before we vote, I just want to say, I think no matter what happens, it's very important for us to advocate, no matter what. And so that is our role as board members, to advocate on our behalf for the district. So at this point, we will do a roll call vote. That would be Secretary Austin.
Nay.
Trustee Eastup.
Yes.
Vice President Heineck.
Aye.
Trustee McVeigh.
Aye.
Trustee Stebbin.
Aye.
Trustee Valenti.
Aye.
President Fanas, aye. Motion carried 6-1. Next item on the agenda is I'd like